Okay, this video is going to demonstrate how to insert fields into a drawing so that you can automate, like in this case, the title block, and have all that information filled in for you so that you don't have to do it over and over and over again. We're going to begin by just putting in a few preliminary things. This drawing does not yet have a viewport, so we're going to add a viewport. We're going to begin by changing to the viewport's layer here, and then using the mview command, that's mview, I'm going to create a polygonal viewport here, and I'm just going to say I want my viewport to go, let me change my object snap settings here. I want it to go from that corner to there and just make my way, make my way around this object. But I want to make my viewport as big as possible. So by going around the inside here, what I've done is, you can see now I've created a viewport that's not just a rectangle, but it's got a polygonal shape there, and it's set up to that side. So now I've maximized my viewport, but I don't have anything that's going to be below the title block there, so it's not going to interfere with that. So now that we've got that done, I'm going to change back to my text layer because I want all of the text to go on that correct layer. Now you'll notice in my block here, if I click on the block, all of this is part of the block, and these little dots here are nodes or points that are intended to be there for you to see where your text is supposed to go. I placed those on a NoPlot layer, so if I come in here and freeze that NoPlot layer, see they go away. And it is actually set up as a NoPlot layer so that even if you do plot it, they won't come out and show up. So if we look at the layers, for example, this NoPlot layer here, it needs to be set up as a NoPlot layer, so make sure you got your little Ghostbuster on there so that it doesn't plot it. If it doesn't have it, you can add it in. So the next thing we want to do now is start adding the text. But the idea here is rather than having to fill all of this out every single time with the form that we've used in the past, we can have it do it all by itself. Now in all actuality, we're going to have this entire thing automated, but in real life, it's probably not all going to be automated. Some of it will be and some of it won't be, and you'll just have to figure that out for yourself and your company, whoever you work for. But the purpose of this is to use fields. So we're going to fill in this entire title block using fields. We're going to start down here in the date corner. So I want to put the date in here. And the date that I'm going to do is today's date. But if I work on this again tomorrow, I want it to be tomorrow's date. Or next week, I want it to be the appropriate date. So I'm not just going to use date. I'm going to use what we call save date. Now to place a field, we're just going to use the text command. I'm going to use the single line text tool here, and it asks me for a start point of my text, but I want it to be just the left hand side here, so I'm going to choose left, and my start point of my text is going to be that node that I have there. So there it is. It asks me for my height, which is 1/8, and that's correct. The rotation angle is 0, and now I've got my cursor. Now in order to put in a field, I'm going to type in Control F, which brings up a list of all of the fields that are available here. Okay, so you can see there are several. There's author and comments and create date and all that kind of stuff. And you'll see that there are several actually that have date. There's create date, and then there's date. But this one is the date the drawing was created, and that one won't update. And then this one is just today's date, and that one won't update because it just puts it in one time. So the one that I want you to put in down here is the one that is the save date. Okay, so every time we save the drawing, it's going to update it in that field. And I want you to use this option right here where it has April 28th, 2020. Notice in the date format, it's MMMM, which if you look in the legend down here, it gives you the full name of the date. So it's month, day, comma, and then year with 4 Y's gives you 2020. So then I can say OK. You'll notice that it puts the field in there and it has the gray background to indicate that it's a field. Don't worry, that doesn't print. Enter once for a cursor return, enter twice, and it enters the field. Okay, so now if I were to save this tomorrow, it would update it, and it wouldn't say April 28th, it wouldn't say April 29th. The next one we're going to put in is the scale here. And we don't want the plot scale because you always plot in Paperspace at a scale of 1 to 1. What we actually want is the scale that's inside of this viewport. So again, we'll start off the same way. We go to single line text, and I'll pick my start point, 1/8 of an inch tall, rotation angle of 0, and then Control F for my field. The one that I want here isn't on the list necessarily, so what I'll do is I'll just drop this down and I'll choose objects, okay, and I want to actually find the scale of an object. So you pick object and then you use the select object button to pick that viewport. So that white line there is the viewport. I can pick it and it tells me here, you've picked a viewport. So there's all kinds of information that you can tell about the viewport here. You know, there's whether it's on or off, and the line type, and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the one that I'm interested in is this custom scale right here. And I want to use the scale name. They all have a name, and that name is displayed in the lower right hand corner when you have your scale activated. Right now it has a scale of 0.943. We can change that anytime we want. So I'll just use OK there. Notice that it has a scale of 0.943. That's no problem. Enter once for a cursor return, enter twice, and it's ready to go. Now, if our scale changes, if I jump into the viewport, for example, notice my scale is at 0.943. If I change it to a scale of 1 to 1, and then, you know, set enter, it doesn't automatically change until I do a regenerate. So REGEN for regenerate. And now it shows me, you can see there that it has a scale of 1 to 1, okay? If I were to do it again, double click on here and change that scale to like maybe something like 1/4 or something like that. I could create one. I could say 1/2 of an inch is equal to a foot, just for fun. And then it changes the scale in here, and there's nothing in or in model space that you could see that it's actually changing, so it's not really going to make a difference here. But now it's good to go. And again, if I regen, now it says 1/2 of an inch is equal to a foot. So every time you regen, it's going to automatically update that, and it's going to give you your different scales. So that's a nice little time saver. It's one of those things where sometimes you'll change your scale, but you forget to change it in the viewport or in the title block, and now it's automatically linked there. The next one that we want to put in is the layout name, okay, which is this one right down here, layout tab, okay, and we can change that name. So again, we'll go to the single line text. This one I'm going to put in as centered, so I'll say justify, and then I want it centered. The center point of the text is that node, so I'll say the node right there. Height is 1/8 of an inch, rotation angle is 0. And then, of course, Control F to get my fields up. I don't want any of these now, so I'll just go back to all. And the one that I want here now for this one is the system variable. You guys should know about system variables. We've used them quite a bit with Lisp routines and that kind of stuff. And the system variable that I want, I've already had it highlighted here, is the C tab, which is the current tab. I want it to be come in at uppercase so that it's all capital letters. And I'll say OK. You'll notice now it says layout 1, which is the name of this tab. Okay, if I press enter once for a cursor return, enter twice, it's good. And again, just like I did with the scale, if I come in here and I change the name of this to say like, you know, like, oh, we don't want to call it something architectural. We could call it sheet 1-2020, just to give it a longer name. Okay, it doesn't update here until I do what? Oh yeah, that's right. I have to regen and get it to think about it. And so now it says sheet 1-2020. So whatever I name them down here, it's going to be named up here. And so you could have several different sheets, and you could identify them what they are down here. It could be electrical drawings, it could be pneumatic drawings, it could be whatever, and it will automatically put that name up here. Okay. Next, we're going to move over here to drawn by. So I want to put in a field for drawn by so that you don't have to type your name in over and over and over again. So we'll go in here and we'll say, of course, single line text. And it asks me for my center point, but I want it to be left justified. So I'll say L for left, enter. The left justification point is going to be that node. So I'll pick the node there, right there. Rotate, or height is 1/8 of an inch. Rotation angle is 0. Control F for my field. And on this one, I want to choose author. So the author is going to be you. We want your name to be in uppercase. And notice that there's just dashes there. It's because that this field doesn't have a value yet. So we'll say OK. It just puts the dashes in. Enter once for a cursor return. Enter twice. Exits the command. Now if you want to put your information in there, that's actually very simple to do. In order to change this information, you go to the menu browser and you go to Drawing Utilities and then Drawing Properties. It brings up our Drawing Properties dialog box here. So you've got general information here, you've got summary information, and if you look right here, there's one for author. Okay, so this is where you can put in your name. I'll put in Joe Student. Okay. You could put other things in here, like a subject and a title and that kind of thing. This title is different from the title that we're going to use for the actual name of the drawing. Okay. And then you'll see here that there's some statistics about when it was created and that kind of stuff. And then right here, we'll get back to this one in a minute with creating some custom ones. So I'll choose OK there. And then now if I choose to regen this again, notice now that we've got the name in here of Joe Student. Okay, so this is one of those things where if this was my template, I would go ahead and I would set that up in my template. So every time I started a new drawing, it's going to have my name in there so that I don't have to do it. And I don't have to go in and go to Drawing Utilities and Drawing Properties. I would also do the same thing with these custom ones here. We're going to create 2 more custom or 3 more custom fields. We're going to create one for the checked by, and we're going to create one for the school name and the school address here. Okay, so we'll start off with checked by. I'll say the property name is going to be checked by, and then the value is going to be the person who's checking the work, which is me. Okay, so I can say OK. Notice that it adds a new property, a new value here, and then the new and the value. And so then I also want one for the school or company. So this would be like your school name or your company name. This is just, this is what's going to show up. And then the value is something that's easily changed. It's going to be Bakersfield College. Bakersfield. Okay. And then one more for the address. I'll just say company address here. I'll just say address, keep it easy. Okay, and the school address is 1801 Panorama Drive. Bakersfield, California, 93305. So you can put that in there. So now we've created our own custom fields here that we can put in. You'll say, okay, that's good for that. And now if I want to put those in, we'll put in the checked by one first. So again, we go back to single line text. We want it to be left justified, and that's already set up here. Make sure my OSNAP settings are on. Node is good. I don't care about intersection right now. OSNAP on, good, is on. So now I can come in here and I can see there's my start point. Height is 1/8 of an inch, rotation angle is 0, and this time we're going to add that checked by field. Notice there it is right there. Okay, remember author was at the top of the list. There's address, there's checked by, school or company is a little bit further down, so I just choose. It already has the field, the value in there for me as well, so I'm good. Put that in there. Okay, and then for the school and company and the address, the same thing. So we'll say This one we want to be centered. The center point of our text is there. Rotation angle, and then Control F. This one we want to say school or company, so I'll pick it here. There it is. Okay, and then uppercase, good for that one. Enter, enter, and we'll do it one more time for the address. Okay, enter, enter. So we're nearly done. We're going to do the title, and then we're going to do the page size here. So the title is going to be 3/16 of an inch tall. So I'll come in here and I'll say, okay, I want it to be center justified. That's correct, except this is going to be 3/16 of an inch tall. Rotation angle is 0. And then, of course, we're going to use a field. That's the purpose here. So the one that I want here is the file name. We'll come down here and we'll choose file name. And right now it's INDR20B mech. Okay, that's our mechanical drawing. But what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you've got file name only and you do not want to display the extension. Okay, if I display the extension, notice that it's going to put the DWG, and if I have path and file name, it's going to tell where it's saved and everything else. So we want file name only and do not display the extension. We can say OK, and now it puts that in there and it's all the right size and everybody's all happy. So the last one we have to come to is probably the most complicated one, this page size right here. So this is already set up. If I come down here and look at it, right click on here and say Page Setup Manager, and then modify DWG to PDF, and my paper size here is the ANSI Full Bleed B 17 by 11. Okay, and I don't really want it to say all that. I just want it to have the letter B here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and insert the field, and then we'll fix that. So we'll say, okay, we want the text again here. It's going to go right there. My height is 1/8 of an inch. Rotation angle is 0. Control F for the field. And we want the paper size. So if I come down here and I choose paper size, notice it says ANSI Full Bleed B. Now I could just type in here, but it's not going to solve the problem forever. So we're going to fix it a different way. So I'll choose OK there, and then enter once for a cursor return and enter twice. And so now notice that it says Full Bleed B. It's not necessarily recognizing the right, this is the right size, but we don't want it to be that big. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix this by changing the Page Setup Manager. So we come down here and right click on the tab, choose Page Setup Manager, and then go to Modify. And right now we're still using this DWG to PDF, and we want to use this size, but we just don't want to call it that. So you go to Properties, and right now we want to choose a custom paper size. So you'll pick custom paper size right here. Notice that I already have it correct, or have it in here, but what I'll do is I'll just say add, and you want to start from an existing one. You don't have to start over from scratch. So just start with the existing one and find the one that we're using, which is that ANSI Full Bleed B 17 by 11. That one right there. You can choose next. Make sure that it is indeed 17 by 11. You didn't accidentally choose like an A size or a C size or something like that. Next. This is the offset from the edge of the paper, so it's going to come within a 32nd of an inch to the edges of the paper, and that's where we want all of those to be. We'll say next, and then here, instead of calling it user 1, we're going to call it B, and then we'll say next, and then finish this. And so now you can see I've got a second B one here. I don't actually want the second one, so I'm going to delete one, but you'll just have the one there, so you can say OK. And now, in order to get that set up correctly, you just come to this list and scroll all the way to the top, and there it is, B. So we can say OK and close. And now again, how do we get this to say B instead of the ANSI Full Bleed B? You just do the region, and now it just says B inside of there. So now this is a fully automated border. As long as you have your properties filled out, every time you start a new drawing with this border, it will automatically set everything up for you just the way you want it to be and be ready to go. And that concludes how you're going to complete this new automatic border with the fields.